Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a win or go home situation in the Link to the Past Randomizer 2019 tournament. It's fcoughlin versus Death King 2, and if Fred doesn't win this to force the game 3, his tournament run is done. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Leslie Pro, and today I am joined by Reg. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I am excited for this match. As you said, it's a do or die for fcoughlin, commonly known in the community as Fred, for people who haven't met him in chat maybe. But we got to this match in the first round of this group stage. Death King took a 0-2 loss to Yoshi, and fcoughlin took a 1-2 loss to J-Measure. And that set up this match, which Death King won game 1 by about 3 minutes or so. I unfortunately did not get to see that race.
You and me both, as well. Work is a thing, and my commutes aren't as quick as they used to be, so I do tend to miss a number of things as a result. But you know what? That's what VODs are for.
And for this game too, since Fred did lose game 1, he got to make a change to the randomizer flags for this race. He chose to make this race a map and compass shuffle. For those of you who don't know what that is, it means maps and compasses are taken out of their dungeon-specific item pools, and they can be anywhere in the world. And then along the same lines, if you check your map, you will not see whether a dungeon is a crystal or a pendant until you get that respective dungeon's map. So that's going to be an information game.
It certainly is, as we're off and starting in different spots. We've got a Cane of Burna on Fred's side and something for Eastern on the side of Death King.
That should have been a compass, if I saw correctly. And it looks like Fred's actually going for an interesting opening here. He's immediately jumping into this. This will offset his camera. Then he'll lift up that bush, fall down the hole that's under it, and he'll end up in the Chris Houlihan room to pick up about 215 or so, 220 rupees.
225 rupees on the Houlihan strat. His uncle has a piece of heart, but this is a great way to get your money kick-started for any particular seed. Now, the one foil to this would have been if flippers were at Sanctuary. Then you'd have to have another setup to get into the Houlihan room, but more on that at another time.
Yep, for now, you just got to know that without the flippers, you can just jump in the water there a few times, and you fall right into the room. And then
Fred's looking for a 50-50 bomb drop, but went 0 for 2 on that one.
Yep, 2 of those bushes both have the 50-50 to contain a single bomb, as you mentioned. Went 0 for 4 on them, though, which is incredibly unlucky. So he's just going to check the race game and use that Houlihan money to buy bombs and pray he doesn't need to walk back down here, which he's good. And on Death King's side, we do see bombs coming from the tree pole, so no worries there.
Yeah, that's why I always check the level 1 tree poles. Ooh, somebody left a fighter sword in the woods. That'll definitely come in handy.
Yeah, always good to be able to actually fight back without having to use limited resources such as bombs.
Well, there's a lamp at the back of the bar. Must be for power outage purposes.
Sword and lamp right off the bat is pretty spooky, not gonna lie, but it is what it is.
Yep, it does hint at a potential Aghanim, but it could also hit for something else. chicken coop a piece of heart. Whereas I believe that was a bow picked up in Blind's hideout.
No, that was just a red boomerang, unfortunately.
Okay, my eyes deceive me. Don't trust them. That was a blue mail, I can tell you that one.
Yeah.
As Fred's down the well, and a bomb pack that you would find there in the vanilla game.
That blue
Some
mail
runners
find
might
is...
actually...
Sorry?
That you might gamble that on your own time, but in a tight race like this, you're not gambling. Ooh, worthless map. Oh, that's going to be a Master Sword. So we got 2 swords already. Yeah, we're screaming Aghanim Pro for some sort of progression, maybe Lumberjack Tree.
Lumberjack Tree is definitely on the table here, as Fred also found the boots right next to that sword in the well.
So that makes it Master Sword for Red. And Fred botched the puzzle, so he's going to go upstairs to reset it. That's something you don't see every day.
Nah, just a few pixels too far to the left trying to push that block down, and it will happen. But easy enough to fix. And of course, I don't think we saw a Lumberjack check on Death King's side when he was coming out of the Sanctuary, so I'm sure we'll see Fred run right up that way after his Lost Woods checks with those boots in hand.
So Death King's gonna get the blueberries that were dropped off in the library. Figured he could use a refill. As Fred picks up the Master Sword.
Yep. At this point, the runners are just finishing the south to north versus north to south checks. Death King is blindly checking the race game, I believe, which will get him 3 bombs. He's got 7 already, I believe that is. Doesn't really need them.
Yeah, he's not picking them up. Can't say I blame him for going for it blind, because that is a very valid gamble to make. It's one I've made a couple of times, and you learn quickly as to why they call them gambles, because sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Now we're on the same path.
Yeah. I think a lot of runners opt to play that race game blindly versus actually checking it, depending on how much they found in Kakariko Village proper. In this case, we just got Aghanim access and boots, so definitely valid to try and just run for it, hoping it has something.
Yeah, with boots is definitely a couple of seconds faster. Ooh, that's a hook shot.
And that's a flippers. So the only thing keeping them from killing Aghanim and then crossing the Dark World River now is the Moon Pearl. So that's a play that you definitely got to keep in mind, but I think these guys will be clearing everything else out first in hopes of not having to spend a few minutes climbing the tower.
Well, fortunately, they have Master Sword should it come to that, so it's basically an NMG-style climb of the tower. Now, it'd be nice to find something to speed it up, like Fire Rod, bow and silver arrows. That's 2 bows. But hey, I'm just saying.
Well, there is 1 bow at least. If they find a second before going into the tower, that will be silvers for them.
Hey, there we go.
Now, both of these runners are running up to the Ice Rod Cave with those flippers in hand. I'm sure they'll go for the flipper checks after this, which is actually pretty standard play even without the flippers. What I want to see is if either runner has the forethought to set up a water walk with the boots coming out of the Ice Shroud Cave just to get across the lake that much faster.
Good question. We shall see shortly. Fred's just gonna dash.
Looks like Fred did set up the water walk, so he can run straight to Hobo and then swim his way back down to Zora. Being able to dash across the water like this, most certainly faster than just swimming it.
Agreed, because swimming it is slow in comparison. And in typical Fred Coughlin fashion, leaves a bomb for the hobo because he did not appreciate the fetch quest.
That's Fred's patented technique right there. You love to see it.
And some of us actually use it too. Oh, hello, Tempered Sword. That requires being able to get there via the Dark World, though, so it'll be a while before we pick that up.
The good news is that if these runners do visit Swamp Palace, they will be able to grab that beforehand and speed up at least a few things. The Argus fight in particular is a lot nicer with that Tempered Sword.
Yeah, and there are a number of boss fights. In fact, combat in general with Tempered Sword is so much nicer.
It's a pretty solid 2x damage relative to the Master Sword, in most situations at least. And Fred having to isolate Zora because he is a poor man who can't afford to pay the fish.
Now, also a poor man who can't afford to be scammed.
Looks like it's the Eastern Palace area next for Fred, which makes a ton of sense. You've got the bow, you've got the lamp. That dungeon is entirely your oyster at this point. That plus Sahasrara is 3 items. There are 6 items total, 3 each, excuse me.
And then Green Pendant is Swamp Palace, and I'm kind of worried about that one, because the last couple of times I've seen Green Pendant Swamp on my own time, there's been something there. Whether that's the case here or not remains to be seen, but we shall see, and we get ourselves an item dash from Death King, as Fred's going for the traditional spin speed.
Chad also doing me the favor of reminding us that this is a map and compass shuffle seed, so those items are not necessarily going to be in Eastern Palace, and that's actually up to 8 items total, including the 3 they already got out of Sahasrara's hut.
Also, because we don't know, the dungeon music can be either the light or dark world music at random, so the music is not a hint here.
It does mean you probably get to hear the Pendant Dungeon music more than 3 times a seed, though, including, potentially, in Ganon's Tower.
Which, to be fair, does make that climb seem quite epic with the music. I have to admit.
Now we get to see Fred save a few seconds and a couple transitions here to hookshot across to that chest, which you normally can't do because good luck having the hookshot in Eastern Palace, but only a red rupee force trouble.
And now, a very quick Stalfos room for Fred. And there's the big key. Now, because the big and small keys aren't shuffled, You do not see any text box for that whatsoever. That's how you know you're not in an actual key sanity seed or dealing with a small key shuffle.
Nope. But mapping Compass Shuffle means that he does still have to go to this far off vanilla big key chest before he can circle back around and go make his way up to the Armos Knights.
Well, if you want to grind up Zora money, here's some good news for you. The stun prize is a big 20.
That would be super convenient if there weren't like 26 of them that you could pull out of chests throughout the game.
True that, and a piece of heart at the big key chest. Now, if this were retro mode, that would be an ideal stun prize because bows cost arrows in that mode. Rather, money, because the money is the arrows, just like Zelda 1.
Unfortunately, retro mode was an option for runners in the previous tournament, but it was one of the things they did away with for this one in the name of simplifying things, and I don't think it was a very popular option to begin with the runners.
It certainly was, and I tried it a few times, and it didn't click. Inverted didn't click with me at all. The only thing from the previous tournament that actually clicked with me, well, there were two things. Randomizer Chaos Boss Shuffle, and Swordless Mode. Somebody in my group actually picked Swordless one match, so I took the time to learn it, and I have to admit, I kind of enjoyed that one. At times.
Swordless is interesting, but that's another one they did away with in this tournament, in favor of giving us the Assured Sword option instead. Which we're not seeing here. Fred unfortunately gets knocked out of his quick kill setup, but still manages to knock one down before that last Armos can recover. That was impressive.
Yeah, that was a heck of a recovery from Fred, no doubt about it. Slipped up on the quick kill, but brought it back nicely.
Yep. The trick for all the people in chat that don't know, when that last Armos Knight turns red, it gets a full health recovery. But if you kill it before it turns red, as you almost saw on Death King's side there, it doesn't actually do that, and you can get a so-called quick kill.
Yeah, it turned red on Death King, so Armos went a bit off the rails today for our runners, but they both stood up with it and finished the job. Now Fred's gonna be doing bonk rocks. I like this play because you're able to get there with the boots. Let's see what it is. Vanilla, piece of heart. Not checking Aghanim. He might be thinking he has to make the climb, which I would be inclined to think along the same logic. However, because this is open mode, we still have the Hyrule Castle checks in front of us, and with Lamp, back of escape is in logic if the keys fall the correct way. Oh wait, the shovel.
Yep. The shovel is, I believe, the last place either runner has to check besides the castle itself, which, if the keys fall well enough to let them get to everything, that's 7 items, I believe, with Map Compass Shuffle.
Now, Fred didn't do this, but Death King's checking Lumberjack Tree, and this is a location I've been suspicious of on my own hunch. Let's see. 10 arrows. I got fooled on that one.
Yeah, and I am being reminded that there are other places to check. The often orphaned location of Agina's Cave and the Zora that neither of these runners can afford to pay.
Well, to be fair, you really don't have a good way to go to Agina's Cave at this early point in the seed. Well, Death King didn't see Bottle Vendor earlier. Only got 20 rupees, though. and is now getting chased due to one of the villagers freaking out.
I think he is now on his way down to check the shovel as well. Bit of a long and roundabout walk to it, but if he didn't have the 100 rupees for the bottle vendor on his first trip through, then that's pretty much that. No other choice.
Fred's in the castle. And it looks like he's could be grinding up money.
I don't see any way he bails on the castle play to go to Zora after this, but he could want to do it, say, after making a Palace of Darkness play. Or, well, if they kill Aghanim here, they can go, well, no, they don't have the Moon Pearl, so they can't hookshot across the river till they find that. Palace of Darkness and the West Dark World are all off the table till we find that one item.
It looks like Fred is choosing the green guards to grind the money off of, which is really smart because they go down in one hit with the Master Sword.
Yep, even the Master Sword can't one-hit KO the blue guards, as there's a power glove, so that's one step towards not having to climb the tower. We just need the Moon Pearl now.
Oh, here's where it gets real interesting. You just got Death Mountain access as well as East Death Mountain. You can't get the hair up, but you just got a number of checks on the table from that one alone.
Yep, that's an additional 10 checks plus the visibility at Spectacle Rock. And we see Fred not going for the back of the castle there. He's going to run it straight up the mountain.
Wait a minute, he just got the glove. He can access the back directly from Sanctuary.
Oh yeah, good call there. And then he'll know whether he has to go for that dark cross chest or if it'll just have a small key. Because we didn't... actually, yes, we did. He has it. So never mind that. He's just going to do that from the back.
Yeah, it looks like Death King is setting up a Death Warp as we get a bug net on Fred's set.
Death King having to be super careful there to not accidentally trigger his death too soon, but manages to get through it, and he'll just run straight up the front, just like you see in Vanilla Game.
And that's a heart container, so at this point, I would say Death Mountain would be the... Well, unless you feel like gambling Moon Pearl on Pyramid, then... or something leading to it like Hammer or Book, then you go up Death Mountain. But you only make that play if you feel like you're behind, and Fred does not feel like he's in that situation just yet.
Nope, not with the way this early seed is developed. Death Mountain is the beyond obvious play at this point. And I have to think that with the Moon Pearl being the only item blocking them from the Dark World at this point, we might see those out-of-the-way one-off Agena Cave, Zora, and so on checks before we see tower climbs. Because before they went to the castle, got that glove, they needed everything. Now, even if they go to Aghanim, the Moon Pearl's gonna block them from doing anything with the Pyramid Ledge.
Speaking of being blocked, Fred almost got blocked by Dead Rocks.
Getting dead rocked while carrying the old man is the worst.
A map on Spectacle Rock. And there's the Titan's Mitts in Spectacle Rock Cave. That's our Dark World access. And That's going to put East Dark Death Mountain into play.
Well, it only partially puts it into play until we find a Moon Pearl. If they really want to and the Pearl's not on the mountain, they can go to the so-called Super Bunny Cave and teach chat why it's got that name. But that still remains a bit of an out-of-logic play, and you can't do Hookshot Cave. For now, we're just going to see Fred cross over to the east side of the mountain where he has 8 checks before even thinking about the Dark World.
So it's a piece of heart and the compass for Turtle Rock so far. In Paradox Cave as Death King's going for the Titan mix.
Still 4 more items in this cave.
Moon
Moon Pearl is one of them. Alright, so we are in good shape. Not looking at an Aga play any longer after that.
For the moment, I mean, the only way we actually have to look at an Aghanim play now is if we somehow get a setup where the hammer winds up at Pyramid Fairy. That's the only way Aghanim enters play now.
Yeah, and at this point, that's such a low percentage play that not even going to worry about that till we've got everything else off the map, more or less. We do see a bottle on the floating island. That's not reachable without the magic mirror, but if it shows up sometime either here in the Spiral Cave or in the Super Bunny or Hookshot Caves, that would be our first bottle of the seed.
Bit of a weird spot for our first bottle, but we shall see. And that's just 3 bombs.
Also, to clarify for chat, since it is getting asked about, yes, this is Game 2. Death King won Game 1, and Fred, in response, made this a Map and Compass Shuffle seed. Now, here's the Super Bunny Cave, so named because falling down the holes here gives Link the Super Bunny state even without the Moon Pearl, and lets him push blocks, open chests, and so on. So you can check these 2 chests without the Moon Pearl at all. But we found it, so not an issue here.
Hello,
and there's
mirror. Hey, who wants to do Tower of Hera while you're at it?
That is absolutely on the table now. We did see a map check on Death King's side. I want to say I saw a crystal at Desert, but I am not confident in that assessment, and I didn't see anything else.
Well, there's our hammer. And funnily enough, now the entire mountain is in logic. Spike Cave looking at you.
Yep, they did find that Cane of Burna really early on. I believe that may have even been in the Sanctuary, in fact, which would have been Fred's first check of the game.
Yes, it was. And this is basically the most value I've seen on a Death Mountain since the days of version 18.
Well, the goods had to be somewhere, because they weren't in the lower light world.
And for Turtle Rock today, we need, as Fred does that check, it is Bombos to get in.
Of course, we don't know what prize that dungeon has at this point, so may not need to get in there, but good information to have regardless, because that is a lot of items.
Certainly is. And we do have both 2 remaining crystals in the light world. One at Desert, one at Hera, but neither red.
We will learn what the red crystals are, presumably when these runners get down to the South Dark World. The guy in the bomb shop will tell them what the red crystals are, because that's what causes him to start selling the super bomb.
And now for a recent discovery in this game, Fred is setting up for Hera Pot.
I saw him practicing this a bit before the race started. Not quite precise on the bomb setup there, but if he did set it up and get knocked into a precise position, he would be able to just use his hook shot, latch onto the other side of the pot, and fall in. That would let him use the warp tile to get up to the 5th floor. It saves some time, but not if you fail it twice, unfortunately, so he's just going to climb the normal way.
Close call on that mirroring by Death King. He was about to take a death by Lionel otherwise, and yep, we confirm on Death King's side that both remaining dungeons in the light world are crystal. There's the flute. Oh my goodness, this entire mountain is loaded, especially if you include Hera.
So the question now becomes, if Moldorm drops a small key for Fred here, do you go to the basement? Do you just play the mountain continuing to be stacked, or do you leave that check behind?
You're down 1-0. You don't leave that behind. At least to me. And down goes Moldorm.
On Death King's side, we did see a successful Hera pot, so you guys can see what Fred was attempting to do, but he's going to have to drop back down to get those 2 items, including his flute now.
Now, there was a small key on the boss, so it'll be interesting to see how Fred plays this. Yeah, he's going right back in. I can't blame him. You don't want to leave a check behind, especially where you would have no other reason to go up here until potentially super late. So, yeah, isolating that could potentially be really bad.
On Death King's side, we're about to see the Moldorm go down there with that 3rd hammer hit, and he'll face the same dilemma Fred's got now. Do you want to sit in the tile room for about 40 seconds?
And with the setup that Fred has, you can just sit there and, well, give your hands a break.
Yeah, get a drink, use the toilet, whatever you want, because you're not going anywhere for almost a full minute.
It is 5 rupees, and would you look at this? Fred is leaving Spike Cave behind. Maybe he doesn't think he has the resources to do it. However, I would suggest otherwise, because Cane of Berna does put that in logic.
Yep, Berna with absolutely nothing else is logic for that location. And the bottle would just be the cherry on top, even if it wasn't.
Well, unfortunately, D-Torp does not help with that. Now Fred's going to check Lumberjack and see that it's just 10 arrows.
Yeah, but he can run down to the village and activate the flute. Then he can go pretty much anywhere he wants at this point. North Dark World, South Dark World, Misery Mire area, you name it, he can get there. I guess the primary exception will be he cannot get past the first room in Ice Palace.
Yeah, you need Bombos or Fire Rod for that. As Fred is going to activate the flute, but first check. Oh, we got a red crystal at Thieves Town and a crystal at Turtle Rock, so we need the Ice Rod, and we have ourselves a Spike Cave check from Death King.
If this pays, it's going to be huge because we have absolutely no reason to believe Fred will go back there anytime soon, especially if it's something like the Ice Rod. But it's not, just $100, so...
So Fred lucks out on leaving that one behind. I know what would happen if I left that behind, and, well, because my luck's the type of one where I don't play the lottery. But we'll leave it at that.
It is the Mire area for Fred, so I guess we'll get the medallion information here. Or not until after the shed, I guess.
Yep, Mire Shed first, then the medallion, probably Desert Palace while he's here. Oh hey, there's Bombos, so now Turtle Rock can be opened later on, and guess what? You can now go into Ice Palace, and you can also go into Mire. Bombos was the one medallion this seed.
Yeah, always nice when you can get everything with just the one. Saves you a lot of hunting, but Desert's going to be the first play here for Fred. With the boots, the glove, and the lamp to light torches, he can fully clear this, and it'll be a good 4 items.
You needed the boots to even get to the boss because the big key was on the torch.
Luckily for us, boots were free this seed. And looking over the tracker here, looking over what dungeons we know are crystals, regardless of what our last 2 crystals are, we are 2 rods and a cane of Samaria from Go Mode. We know that. Nothing will change that at this point.
It's just a question of what can be, what could potentially be on the pedestal besides Ice Rod. If Skullwood's rolls pendant, then you can take Fire Rod off the table. And if Mire rolls pendant, then Cane of Samaria's off the table. And hey, there's the silver arrows. As we've got Death King into Thieves Town, shall see how this plays out.
Yep, we saw a Village of Outcasts check before that. I think it was just the treasure chest game, which turned up nothing. So, the dungeon it is. And I mean, it makes perfect sense. This is a fully clearable crystal for him with just that hammer. Doesn't even need anything else.
So Fred takes a quick moment to check the checkerboard cave before finishing Desert. Can't see I blame him.
Yeah, it's a check you've got to make either way. May as well do it before when you're already back in the Dark World and dashing around. Then just go right back and you can flute right after the Lane Mola's kill.
And when you're in Desert, it would be the time, or Mire, would be the time to get the often orphaned Agina check out of the way.
Yeah, I feel like we saw that from one runner already, but I could just be misremembering. I guess the real question, chat's already brought it up, but what do you think the chances are Fred goes into Mire without Cane of Samaria to be able to know he can full clear it?
Good 2 cycle from Fred, and that drops 3 bombs. Now, Death King was being cautious with heading into the first floor bombable room because those lizards deal 2 hearts of damage on green mail. And I know folks who have lost NMG runs in that room, myself included. Fred's bailing. He's going for Hype Cave.
Just off sheer density, Hype Cave, and then he'll swing his way back around to the North Dark World with those mitts. It's the more efficient play for sure, rather than gambling on a dungeon that you don't know you can full clear. So he's going to run his way all the way around to the North Dark World here, almost certainly.
We got a Hype Cave, which has 10 arrows, so bit of a refill there. A map to Skull Woods, that's information. A bottle with a blue potion in it, that's nice to have. Fred didn't like that Hype Cave.
Yeah, I didn't either, honestly. He already had a bottle, so it's just... We do see a pendant at Skull Woods, though. That means just 1 pendant left to be found, and then we'll know exactly what dungeons we have to clear. Also, Fred is making an absolute liar out of me by going east instead of west out of that Hype Cave. He's going to get this Tempered Sword, probably straight into Ice Palace afterwards.
From a routing standpoint, that would make a lot of sense, and that blue potion makes doing Ice Palace so much easier. And more bad jokes from Blind. Actually, no, he's making his bow look foolish, as I think this is a run to pod, potentially.
Yeah, making that screen transitions means it is definitely pod. Which, we don't know if it's going to drop a pendant or a crystal. But considering there's 3 unknown dungeons, that's the Cane of Samaria on Death
Yeah, I was about to say, speaking of unknowns, Blind drops the Cane of Samaria, so I guess a blind dive into Misery Mire would have been a bad idea for Fred. He would not have gotten the cane.
On the other hand, it means that Death King will be able to just go clear that dungeon in combination with Desert pretty much whenever he wants. He doesn't know it yet, but the medallion is under the map for him, just waiting. And that does mean that we are just 2 rods away from go mode for these runners.
It really is a question of where the rods are at this point, and oftentimes pod has been a dungeon of value, and while that value is kind of limited based off of what we know, it could still be something big. And at this point, the only thing that can be on the pedestal is the ice rod, so that's basically what we're after. As soon as we find ice rod, then we declare Ped dead. Assuming it's not there, of course.
Yeah. At this point, Palace of Darkness is, 7 items because it's a map compass shuffle. There's one of them, that gold sword. And Fred knows... Sorry, go on.
That is a maximum offense type find. Now everything's gonna fall easily.
Yep. Between those and the silver arrows, there's pretty much nothing that can last more than a few hits. But we are looking at 7 total items in the Palace of Darkness here, one of them guaranteed to be on the Helmasaur King. And it's a 2/3 chance at a crystal for Fred. Definitely a very reasonable play to make here. And if it turns out to just be a pendant, then he knows where the other pendants are and he's good to go on his crystal counts.
Yeah, even those hard hat beetles don't last very long. There's a map. And it's the Misery Mire map. So now we'll know if that's the pendant or the crystal. I didn't see it.
It was the pendant. So Fred's going to get a crystal out of this. Ice Palace is also going to drop a crystal. The only thing we don't know is which one the second 5/6 crystal is, but at this point, well, I can't say we don't need it. Either of the rods could be at the Pyramid Fairy. And yes, as Chad's pointing out, it is important to know that each of these runners is missing information on one of the pendant dungeons. Death King doesn't know what Skull Woods is, and Fred does not have the Mire information. But from where we're sitting, we've got all the information, and we do know Fred is going to get a crystal out of this dungeon at least.
Well, now that's interesting. Fred finds the magic powder in the dark maze. That opens up Magic Bat. Plus, he also gets a nice little backup of turning anti-fairies into fairies, and there's a luxury item you want to see, and that's half magic. So, Pod certainly having some value. Maybe not the value we want, but it certainly has value in terms of luxury goods.
Yeah. The most Fred got out of here is in terms of progression is that powder, which is just a fetch quest check that he can turn in at the same time he's doing the Smith's Chain, which is fairly efficient, but it is just trading one check for another.
Death King just came up with Bombos.
Of course, with him knowing that Misery Mire is a pendant, he might be less inclined to just dive in after finishing the desert here.
Even so, he's got the means to be able to full clear the dungeon, and we know that in this mode, each boss is guaranteed to hold an item because of the map compass shuffle. Unless, of course, there's a map or a compass being held by Vit, but we might run out of those before that point, who knows?
I think Argus and Mothula can both be holding their respective big keys, but in that case, the big chest is going to have a potential item in it anyway, so it's all the same. And yeah, Vitreous can also have a small key, as Chad is pointing out. Thanks, Chad. I love you guys. Keeping us honest.
And Cold Stare can also hold a small key due to how the key layout is for Misery Mire.
Yeah. If Cold Stare has a small key, that just means that the dungeon logically requires Samaria to reach that boss. But we already have Samaria anyway, so who cares about that?
While the Butter Sword doesn't speed up Phase 1 against Helmasaur King, it really speeds up Phase 2. You don't even need to menu to Silver Arrows, because it's literally just 2 hits and it's done.
Yep, just like that. Pod full of a bunch of really luxurious junk aside from that one fetch quest. I'm kind of impressed, actually.
Half magic, too. So that was the real gems for Pod today. Everything else, not so much.
And yeah, our tracker OSS keep calling it out in chat, but we were able to see on Fred's menu that the Palace of Darkness crystal was not a 5/6 crystal. And as you can see on the tracker along the bottom of the screen, the only remaining option for that is Ice Palace. So we now know our full crystal and pendant layout for the seed.
That we do, and by way of process of elimination, it looks like Fred's going to check Skullwoods anyway, which isn't a bad play considering it's right available as soon as you go to Dark World. I mean, this isn't versions 25 through 28 where this was 50-50 to have something, mind you, but it could still have something all the same.
Definitely could, and I do know that even though Skullwoods is not as valuable as it used to be when it comes to probability of having progression, a lot of runners do still check these front few chests as if they were overworld. And Map Compass Shuffle just makes them even more valuable. Fred choosing to mirror out instead of just letting that Wallmaster grab him.
Well, the Wallmaster grab is basically how you go back to the beginning of the dungeon for a modified Death Warp in the event that you don't have mirror. See the hand? Take the elevator. The older builds of the Rando, specifically up to version 28, were kind of slanted towards dungeons having progression. It's really the best way I can describe it. From version 29 onward, the logic has truly been more randomized than it was in other versions. Gotta be blind to get the red cane today.
And that is a lot of junk in the front of Skullwoods. Not even helpful junk like was in the Palace of Darkness. And I've got to imagine that the Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town will be the next play for Fred here.
I see that pun in chat.
So, while both runners here are just kind of doing things the other already did, getting their disappointment locations out of the way, just want to give you guys a reminder. Follow the runners here on Twitch. Yeah, you can see their links in chat. They are pretty much exactly as they appear on the stream. Twitch.tv/fcoughlin, Twitch.tv/DeathKing2. The only thing to note if you're watching this on YouTube or similar, Death King's name has underscores instead of spaces in it. But give these runners a follow. They're the ones putting on the show, and Fred's progressing towards his cane. Death King's actually making the Ice Palace play. This is going to be new for us.
That it is. We've been able to do this for some time, logically, due to Bombos being here, but no one's made the play until now.
Everybody loves a good Fire Rod and Ice Palace meme, right?
I know I had one on Cold Stare once.
Now, unfortunately for Death King here, he does not have that golden sword that Fred has, which means that his sword does not do Fire Rod levels of damage to Mothula. Or not to Mothula, to Cold Stare, excuse me. My head is completely not in Ice Palace right now for some reason.
Interesting fact in chat mentioned that I did not know about this game, that in the vanilla game, if you want to buy the Big Mom, you also got to rescue the blacksmith. I honestly did not know that.
Yeah, it makes sense because they don't want you going from Master Sword directly to Gold Sword. They want you to get that Tempered Sword instead. But that requirement has been removed in the randomizer, so you don't need the Titan's Mitts to get the Pyramid Fairy if crystal layouts don't dictate it. This seed crystal layout does dictate it because Ice Palace, but that's not the general case here.
Death King's going for Ice Palace Bomb Jump. It's a first try. Of all the things I've learned while playing this rando, I'd say that is easily the most useful one to learn, because you save a lot of time.
Yeah, that one will save you literal minutes. Even more so if you're in go mode and not actively hunting for items, although Death King does still need 2 rods. And at this point, he actually knows what his pendants and crystals are, so he knows he needs just those 2 rods, nothing else.
And bombosing away the freezers. Always satisfying. And that's a small key. He is setting up for... Oh, whoopsie. I don't think he meant to do that. He was setting up for a bomb jump. Unfortunately slipped off, fell through to the big chest, which has a bottle with red potion. That is our 3rd bottle.
Yeah, all this means that is he'll have to adjust the order he's doing things in. He wanted to take that bomb jump so he could go check the right side 3 chests by way of the tall icy room. And instead, he's just going to go check the iced tea chest and use that to get to the icy room as Coughlin puts down blind and gets Cane of Samaria.
Now, alternatively, he did get a small key in that 2nd freezer room, so what he could have done is just gone upstairs, dashed to the right, and he would have been there that way.
He could have, but that's slow.
Well, true, but falling down like he did was pretty slow, and Fred is taking out fenders today.
And then here's the big icy floor room. For super fun times, make sure to item dash on icy floors. But other than that, Death King's just going to hook shot across and he'll get the 3 checks on the right side of Ice Palace.
This NPC is going to annoy Fred, but he would have to wait out a timer, and he's going for his traditional high dig, but he may run out of time doing this.
He's probably fine unless it's like literal 30 digs.
Even so, it wasn't value, because look at that. It was a compass, and he's just going to jump right on out.
Unfortunately, has to sit through that text box, but not the end of the world.
And I do believe we picked up a mushroom. No, we got a fire rod inside of Ice Palace.
Yep. I told you, everybody loves a good fire rod in Ice Palace meme.
Well, for me, I'm a fan of the Raging Cold Stare meme, because that's where I got the Fire Rod 1 seed, and that was the hashtag I raided someone that night with.
Meanwhile, on Fred's side, we're seeing him make the same Smith checks. He is turning his nose up at a map. That map, for those of you in chat who may have forgotten, does happen to be Misery Myers, which would tell Fred what his last pendant is.
A rupee horde reward. Okay, so what he did there was swing the hammer in the direction of the blacksmith to get away in their way of the work. In the vanilla game, they say, and I quote, "Hey, amateurs shouldn't try doing this. You're just getting in the way." So to see that changed up into "don't take our jobs," it's pretty funny to me.
There's a lot of really great text in the randomizer that we hardly ever see because we're racing and text is slow. For casual players, I recommend talking to the ball guy on the west side of Dark Death Mountain. On Death King's side, we're getting the Palace of Darkness play from him. We know that magic powder turns out to be nothing because Fred checked it, so he's just going to get a bunch of safety junk and like a gold sword.
Plus half magic.
That falls under safety junk in my book. Alright, so Fred is leaving his purple chest behind, but do not panic, friends. He has a plan. When you mirror right next to the NPC that you turn it into, he will take a few seconds to or not a few seconds, but at least a few frames to update the follower flags. So the chest is still considered following you for a little bit after you mirror, and you can turn it in despite leaving it in the Dark World. So Fred knows what he's doing. Do not panic.
That's another one you can fall under. I didn't know that.
I believe that tech was discovered literally after the tournament, well, the qualifiers of the tournament started, or maybe like just before. It's triple bombs regardless, so not much value.
Usually if I get annoyed by that NPC, I just take his sign. It doesn't follow you when you do that, though, which I find interesting. And Fred's heading into Ice Palace now. At this point, and I pose this to chat, could we potentially see an Ice Rod in Turtle Rock?
I mean, we've still got 2.5 pendant dungeons to fully clear out that could contain it, as well as a few other miscellaneous overworld checks. Like, we haven't seen Catfish, we haven't seen the Super Bomb. I don't think we've seen the Pyramid Ledge proper. We haven't seen, I don't think, like stuff like the Graveyard Ledge or King's Tomb. We have seen Spike Cave, though. So that is one location it can't be.
Now, here's what I'm thinking. If you're Fred, do you roll the Gamblematic 9000 and go for Turtle Rock hoping Ice Rod is there? Because he's down 1-0. He may just do that thinking he's got nothing to lose.
Or the flip side of that, he could avoid it thinking, I'm down 1-0, I can't afford to lose. When you're racing like this, all sorts of weird gambles can either be justified or given justification to not do them, and it's hard to say what's going on in his head right now.
True that. I just know my last race I made that gamble and was right, because it was in the big key chest, and that's partially why I have a game 3 tomorrow. So that extra information you're seeing on the pause screen of the runners is specific to modes where maps, compasses, and keys and key sanity are in play. When those are in the item pool, you see what you have from small and big keys on that pause screen.
Fred is choosing to route Ice Palace slightly differently. He is going for the right side before the Freezor chest by falling down into the tall room. So he's going to get his Fire Rod pretty shortly here. And then on Death King's side, he's about to pick up his half magic, which will round out his complete offensive arsenal here. And that's going to be pretty much everything of value in Palace of Darkness besides the crystal proper.
As Fred now has this fire rod, he can also picked up a mushroom in there. Now, that's going to be interesting. Like, if he decides to go to the witch's hut for potions, he can just turn the mushroom in right then and there at the same time. Or approach it from the Dark World, mirror portal, check that, go back into portal, check the catfish, and then mirror into Zora. It's just one way of routing and getting a few obscure checks out of the way, one after another.
Yeah, if we're gonna see, I feel like just from a sheer efficiency standpoint, the mirror play is the way to go. Because after Fred finishes this dungeon, he'll have both 5-6 crystals. He can grab the super bomb, take that to the pyramid, check those 2 chests plus the pyramid ledge, then walk up to Catfish, mirror to turn in the mushroom on the way, and mirror to Zora afterwards. Death King, of course, has the same play available to him, but starting at Palace of Darkness instead of starting at Ice Palace, I guess both are just mirror and flute to 4.
Yeah, doesn't matter. What depends at this point is who finishes what boss first. Now, Fred's going to have a pretty quick cold stare fight because Buttersword just speeds that fight up to a ridiculously quick tempo as Fred gets a nice bomb jump over. Only a small key, but still a very good bomb jump.
Yep. Gold Sword does the same damage to Cold Stare as the Fire Rod, which basically means both will absolutely shred that boss. And then on the other side, it's going to be 17 hammer hits to knock off Helmasaur King's mask, and then 2 Gold Sword slashes to the gem. And he is entering the fight just slightly before, so may see these finish up in sync.
The only thing that slows this down is execution of the Hammer Strike and that Fireball RNG.
But we do see absolutely beautiful kills on both, and as you said, they are in sync, killing these bosses and getting their 6 crystals. The only thing either of them has left to do is find that Ice Rod and make their way to Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower.
We got ourselves a race, folks. As that was a simultaneous boss kill, but Fred's already out, a couple seconds ahead.
Now, where's Fred going? Is it going to be 1 or 4?
Or...
So this is probably the play I was outlining earlier. Super Bomb, Pyramid, Mushroom, Catfish, Zora. Death King cutting out the middleman, going straight to the Mushroom check.
Interesting. Might be getting potions at the same time, so maybe taking this out to take a mirror transition out? Hard to say, but it's just a heart container, but that is not the worst thing that could have been there.
Making this play to me, though, indicates that Death King's not interested in making the Super Bomb play immediately. So, yeah, that's the mountain. That's going to be immediate Turtle Rock for him.
Yeah, he's rolling the Gamble-Matic 9000 to try and win this now, because if Ice Rod happens to be there, then Death King has really pulled ahead. If it's not and Fred finds it first, then it's Fred with the advantage. This decides the race right here, folks.
I'm not going to go and say it fully decides the race because there are a small number of other locations. I believe I mentioned the Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb before, but it's basically whichever runner finds it first will absolutely have a huge advantage here.
Empty bottle and a piece of heart. It is not the pyramid, and there were 3 bombs on the ledge, so pyramid nothing.
The next new check we'll see on Fred's side will not be until Catfish, assuming he chooses to go up in that direction. And yeah, here's the mushroom turn-in. May or may not buy potions. I don't think, honestly, it matters that much at this point. He's got a blue, and then he's got half-hand gold sword, so...
Okay, that was a clever way to trigger the screen transition to get that item. I wouldn't have thought of that myself. And yes, he is getting 1 blue potion for the road.
And for chat asking, we have not seen Zora yet. Both runners did get super early flippers. They went up to the waterfall cave and checked the ledge as part of their South Shore routing. Neither runner was able to afford Zora at the time, so we do not know what the fish has.
And at the time, we didn't know that the stun prize was 20 rupees, so neither runner could prepare for that.
They were both at least 200 rupees short, if I remember correctly, so that would be a very long setup.
Yeah, it was more like 300 rupees short, and Christos! It's not required, but still, that's vanilla.
Very hard vanilla. And we did see a magic cape on Death King's side, blocked by the fire rod in Turtle Rock. Not important, but it's there.
I mean, now we know that if Bumper Cave had the ice rod, that would have been a mandatory double dip. The scam is overcharged toilet paper today. That is not nice, King Zora.
Nope. Fred saving and quitting to the mountain and pulling out the hook shot, though, so it looks like the Turtle Rock play is next for him as well. If it turns out to be in here, it will be somewhat close, but it will definitely be a sizable advantage for Death King, who got into this dungeon a couple minutes sooner.
Sizable, but not an advantage that can be overcome, because a left-right play in GT could change things up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that if the Ice Rod turns out to be in Turtle Rock, it will be close enough that we will definitely be in the realm of Ganon's Tower routing, making a potential difference.
Big Key was there, so we wouldn't have been able to skip that check even if we had the Ice Rod.
Nope. And all that means is that we won't see any big chest skip gambles, which we wouldn't see that anyways, still missing an item, and I'm not a fan of them to begin with, so I'm happy with that. Now the real question here, if we don't find the Ice Rod in Turtle Rock, you've got Swamp Palace, you've got Misery Mire, you've got the back of Skull Woods, And you've got a couple miscellaneous overworld locations, with Death King having more of those remaining than Fred. What do you take first?
Honestly, I would say go for Green Pendant Swamp because you've got a potential of 9 to 10 different things that you can get an ice rod in, so that's like a 10% chance if it's there of being in any of those locations, and that includes Green Pendant, and our Mimic Cave was just 10 arrows.
Yep, so still 6 chests in Turtle Rock to pull before we have to bail. Gonna have the big chest here, the Crystal Roller Room, and the 4 chests on Laser Bridge.
And Chet just brought up one we have yet to check, and that's Agina.
That is such a weird check to have totally orphaned when both runners have already cleared out Desert Palace. Although chat's also saying that Agina has been checked by Death King, so that's not a factor.
Okay, maybe I missed that one. And yes, pedestal is indeed an option. Because it's an option. What do you go for?
It's still the lowest percentage play.
Yeah.
And you have to full clear the pendant dungeons to even unlock it, so it's definitely a last resort.
And Fred just got trolled terribly by the Jane Chomps. Bad doggy.
All right, here's Laser Bridge. 3 items plus a small key. There's the key, so just 3 items here, and then we'll have to bail if none of them are the Ice Rod.
Just be careful with those lasers. Wouldn't be a bad play to open the safety door or pull out the magic cape. And that's exactly what Death King's doing for this last check, which is 20 rupees. This is not the answer. So, what's next? Where does Death King go from here? Does he do those overworld checks that Fred already did? Or does he go straight for a dungeon, be it Mire or Swamp?
It's a lot harder to say in his case, because a lot of those overworld checks are faster than opening up Swamp Palace. It looks like... Is this going to be Skull Woods into the North Dark World, the Bumper Ledge, which I think we already saw, the Graveyard Ledge in King's Tomb?
That's certainly a possibility. I mean, that wouldn't be bad routing from a routing standpoint.
I believe Death King already checked. No, he has not checked the front of Skullwood, so this is entirely new to him, and this is a lot of checks, which suddenly this play makes total sense.
That was a 2-pixel window for that bomb jump. If he had missed it, he would have taken a death. That death intentional, however, to get his health back.
Yep, easy enough. He can go check these left side chests now, and that'll be that. Although we know the ice shot won't be in these chests because Fred already showed them to us.
And the only thing that's keeping Death King from actually looking at the pedestal, no book. But would book be a good thing to have? Not necessarily, because then the tablets become a play.
The good news is that one tablet at least is fairly close to Swamp Palace, so if you were wanting to make that play, that's an easy route in. The Ether tablet at this point, pretty far out of the way.
To answer chat, yes, the book can be on PED, and if the ice rod is on one of the tablets, that would just be absolutely diabolical.
All right, Fred done with the Turtle Rock checks here. No ice rod. Where does he go next? For him, with fewer overworld checks and more scattered ones, I've got to think it's Swamp Palace, but the whole world's open.
And when the whole world is open and you're after that one item, it could basically be anywhere, and we are getting a Meyer play. And in the back of Skull Woods is the blue boomerang, aka best boomerang, and we're about to for those of you who are familiar with the bird memes, we're about to have a roast murder-dactyl.
I would be fine with that if the Bombos animation weren't so bloody slow. But we do have Fred making the Meyer dip. Normally 2 items, Map Compass Shuffle increases that to 4. So while it's not Swamp Palace's, 8, it's still a fairly solid play.
Nice use of the Fire Rod to deal with Meyer too.
Still got the 1 Wizrobe cycle in there. No sword beams to do that room totally optimally, but that's about the best you can ask for without them.
Death King's getting trolled by Mothula as he keeps hitting the boss into the spikes, which nullifies all damage done to it on that attack.
Moth finally came down, and that's it.
And it comes down with the pod map, which we absolutely do not need at this point.
Chat's asking what overworld...
Oh my goodness, Fred Coughlin just hit a home run. The ice rod was in Misery Mire. Fred is in go mode.
Yep, and that is a huge advantage for Fred at this point. All he's got to do is go back to Turtle Rock, kill Trinex, and I think that this death will preserve his portal. So he can go right back in the safety door.
You sure about that? Because I honestly thought the safety door, the portal was killed when he had to go into Mire, but maybe I'm mistaken.
The portal should only get killed when you either mirror or save and quit. An overworld death is neither of those. But yeah, chat was asking about what overworld checks were left. Death King has a couple that Fred hasn't done yet, and the question's a bit moot now that we know where the Ice Rod is. But if I recall correctly, Fred's only remaining overworld checks are the Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb, and Agina.
Wow, slap me side the head with a trout and call me sassafras, because I was completely wrong about that. You definitely learned something new every time you see this game, even if you don't think it's possible.
Yep, and there is the portal. So Fred is just seconds away from entering his Trinex fight. And then Death King's grabbing the Super Bomb. This will probably be the Pyramid to Catfish to Zora play we saw from Fred earlier. We know it's not going to pay, but it's a fairly efficient play at this point. The only one more so is probably Swamp Palace. And we know that's not it either.
Yeah, basically Fred did a dungeon play that was, some would say, would have been against the odds, but sometimes in Randomizer, the odds are not in your favor, and in this case, Fred took those odds and turned them into his favor.
Well, that's rando for you. When something can be literally anywhere and you're looking for just one something, odds don't matter. If it's in the super isolated low percent play, then that's it. You can't do anything about it.
And Trinex had the red mail. How rude. Anyway, let's get some numbers up. 1 through 22 chat to see where the big key is.
Yep, and there's not that long to guess because all he's got to do is run across the very top of the mountain and open up the tower. So now we get to see how Fred decides to route Ganon's tower today. There are a few different options, and I know some runners like to vary it a bit depending on how many small keys they find in the first couple rooms.
And we get the Light World music here now. This is epic. Wow. It's a god GT. Big key and small key in the Hope Room. Holy smokes, Batman. You do not see that every day.
Nope. And as if Fred's lead wasn't already big enough, there is literally no GT route you can choose to save time over that. You can lose a ton of time by skipping that room and going straight left, but you cannot save time over that.
Yeah, that's literally like trying to go up against a royal flush in a game of poker. You can't. You can maybe try and bluff your opponent into folding a royal flush, which, if you try doing that, good luck, because I doubt they're going to fold that hand. I could be wrong there, but yeah, you're not going to see it.
Well, cannonball room's down, so now we've got the gauntlet for Fred. Casually speaking, these are the most difficult combat rooms in the game. A series of 4 or 5 rooms culminating in Lane Mola's rematch. But when you know what you're doing, pretty easy to put these rooms down.
The only challenge with this third room is if you get trolled by the horse heads pattern, which has happened to many a runner of this game and a rando player alike.
Yeah, happened a little bit to Fred there with that one getting stuck in the corner and just avoiding all of his sword slashes, but he got it, and silver arrows into Land Molas are going to be 1 shot each. Timing just a little bit off there, unfortunately.
Yeah, at this point, I just go for butter sword slashes or just stay with it and get it on the next shot.
Using the Cane of Samaria to simultaneously 1-shot kill 3 Wizrobes. In the next room, we'll see 4, and Fred used the sword to get all 4 of them down simultaneously, just like that.
Got a 10 arrow drop off one of them too, but that'll help.
Yeah, he definitely already had all the arrows he needed to kill Ganon, but extras never hurt.
Yeah, just in case things go a little awry.
Fred just grabbing that small key. That's the last one he needs for the tower. It's going to be this room, next room, Moldorm 2.
Bit of a misfire with the bomb. But at least when you have yourself the powder, you can get health in this room very easily. And now it's on to Moldorm 2 as Death King 2 is heading into Misery Mire. He will get his Ice Rod here, and then it'll be off to Turtle Rock, where unfortunately being unable to save the portal means he has to go back through the dungeon. And the vintage Fred Coughlin bombing Moldorm's last remains.
With the equipment he's got, definitely a more entertaining option than just grabbing them.
And I've seen Fred do some entertaining stuff with that chest in the past. As here he's on to Ganon 2. How's your geometry today, folks?
That only counted for 2 hits, but Fred proving his geometry is on point.
A little unlucky with that one.
Well, that's 4 hits and a good setup to finish it off here.
And he does.
And there he goes.
Nice 4.
So, yep, now just one more cutscene and then he'll drop down into the Ganon fight to finish this seed off.
As Death King gets his Ice Rod, enters Go mode, does a save and quit to get out of there, and we're getting random insect facts from Ganon today.
And more important than the insect facts is Coughlin hitting Ganon 6 times per phase with his gold sword here to advance the fight. So that's down, and now he'll get the warp phase. Ganon being quite generous with those warps right now.
They're still randomized, folks.
We found the arrows, so Ganon gets to complain about it. Fred gets the torch glitch, unfortunately gets the silverless damage swing in there instead of the vulnerability, but this is going to be it.
Yep, that's a 2-frame window for that particular hit without the spin, but down goes Ganon. We got Bacon. Get your GGs in chat for our winner, fcoughlin, who is crossing the threshold, and with that is going to force game number 3 at a date to be determined.
Yep, that is Fred Coughlin in first place this race with a time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 43 seconds as Death King is getting back into Turtle Rock. Winning the race, staying alive in the tournament, forcing a super exciting Game 3, the works.
And with that, we are joined by the winner, Fred Coughlin. GG, well played. That was a rough Ice Rod spot.
Yeah, just a little bit. I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit nicer, and then it came down to Ice Rod, and I was like, shoot.
I think we all were like that.
Yeah, and it was interesting because at 6 crystals, you guys were killing different bosses within a couple seconds of each other. You were killing Cold Stare, Death King was killing Helmasaur King, and at that point, it was just who would find the Ice Rod first. Death King went immediately up to Turtle Rock, where you turned in the Super Bomb and whatnot. Neither play turned out to be correct, which sort of equalized again.
Yeah, I was a little scared because I wanted to go up to Turtle Rock, get things there, and if it wasn't, preserve the portal. But doing the stuff like the bomb, especially since that was my 6th crystal, was I think ice there, so therefore it opened up the portal. I was afraid of using a mirror at some point and breaking things, so I probably should have made the play earlier up to Turtle Rock there. But as I said, I just wanted to try to get things done while I could with using as minimal mirrors, or namely 0 mirrors where I could, and minimizing my deaths.
In fact, honestly, that was the first time I've seen a portal preserved like that, and that certainly saved plenty of time versus going back through the dungeon.
Yeah, I don't remember who I saw. I saw a race a couple of weeks ago, somewhere around the start of the tournament. One of the first kickoff races, I think, for this, where both runners ended up doing the same thing. One went to Mire, one went to Ice, one got the right play, one didn't, but then they both warped out and killed themselves in order to try to preserve the portal. Works nicely as long as it's not Swamp Palace. That ends up being the fun bit there.
And
Yeah,
I think I can... Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I can assume then that the reason you chose Mire over Swamp was an attempt at portal preservation then?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mire normally has 2, but with the fact that it was MC on, it had 4 items in it. I could have gone back of Skull Woods for 2 more items, but decided 4 is a little bit better than 2. The spec of Skull Woods was going to be my next play, and then just slowly work around the rest of Hyrule, praying I didn't need to use the mirror to finish things off.
Now, one thing about that play I do want to ask, had you done Castle Tower, the restart point would have then been on the pyramid. Would that have negated trying to save the port?
Yes, because any save quit in Dark World would have taken me to Dark World. So the only thing that I wouldn't have been able to save things, because even if I found Ice Rod somewhere that I didn't check in the lower Dark World there, I would have then had to get back to Light World in order to get up to the mountain. So I got lucky that I didn't have to kill Aghanim there. Thought I was gonna have to.
So, yeah, we were thinking it was going to have to be that way, but then Death Mountain opened up, and good gracious, I don't think I've seen a Death Mountain that loaded since version 18 of this rando.
Yeah, it was a good one. And as I said, just led to the giant chase for the Ice Rod. Led to a lot of fun there.
Well, on the race, we did just see Death King kill out Trinex, so all he's got left is that tower climb, and with that big key location, I can't imagine he'll be missing it for very long, if at all.
I'm going to step out, but thank you all again for commentating this. I'm looking forward to watching back the replay. Again, those of you who are watching, make sure you follow these guys who have been doing the commentary here, as well as the tracking team, because they're doing a fantastic job here. They don't have to be doing this, and they do a great job at it. So thank you guys again, and looking forward to seeing match 3. We'll be playing it tomorrow afternoon, same bad time.
Yeah, and make sure to follow the guy that was... Make sure to follow the guy that was just talking as well. The first winner of this race, Fred Coughlin, twitch.tv/fcoughlin, because he's the guy that put on the show for us. So we wouldn't be here without him and without all the other runners.
Absolutely. GG's, Fred, and looking forward to seeing the race tomorrow. I'll probably have to catch the VOD for that because I'm back at work, but this was fun to call today.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one, everyone.
Alrighty, F. Coughlin, everyone.
Death King having just the slightest bit of trouble lining up his arrow shots on the mimics here, but there he goes. Now just got to get through the second room. Silver arrows, 25 of them. Yeah, this is going a lot cleaner for him. Yeah, into the gauntlet, actually switching to fire rod strategies instead of silver arrows. A lot faster, a lot easier to hit. No real lag of note. Still one-shots everything. Pretty nice.
And Astolphos is worth noting with the fire rod strats that unlike the North American version of this game, Astolphos disappear instantly. They don't burn.
Nope, everything else here still unfortunately does, but Stalfos make up half the gauntlet anyways, so not going to complain too hard about it.
Just saw some slightly glitchy graphics on Death King's side, but nothing major. That's just the game for you. The game does pull a few glitchy things graphically from time to time.
In particular, the game really does not like two things happening at once, and I think that second land mola may have started surfacing just as Death King fired the arrow. Not 100% sure. But it was harmless in the end, and didn't inhibit him from getting the 0 cycle kill.
Yeah, there are a number of harmless stuff like that. Uh-oh. That fall might have cost Death King the chance of getting this first cycle, so he's going to wait till the torch goes out and then restart.
Definitely better to wait and take the time to ensure that you get it right, rather than lighting them all up and getting locked out.
Or having the door slammed right in your face. I can remember that happening to me a few times as a kid when I first beat this game.
Showing off some nice bonk tech to avoid those sparks and jump over the pit. So, good awareness there, knowing that he probably wouldn't make it if he walked through, or if he did, he'd risk falling. And now we've got the usual full health, full magic before entering Moldorm 2, and with him fully decked out offensively, there's the worm down.
Yeah, when you've got the maximum amount of offense, Moldorm 2 is no sweat whatsoever.
I mean, things do still happen, but Gold Sword will end that fight in just 2 slashes. I think even a slash and a poke would do it. So, not that hard.
Right. Although, to be fair, that platform does get interesting in Randomizer when the boss shuffle is turned on. Gonna leave it at that.
No, why mince words? Why not just say directly, Helmasaur King on that platform is really fun.
Well, so is Trinex.
Aghanim 2, I believe we've seen 3 hits so far.
I believe we're up to
on this
5.
cycle now.
Yep.
No, you're right. I miscounted. Thank you. And now, depending on how this Ganon fight goes, which I imagine it'll go pretty smoothly, we're somewhere between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes out of Death King being done with this as well. Okay, he's pulled out the cape here for safety. Definitely has the requisite number of hits at this point. The only thing to keep in mind is that the spin maneuver he did with the gold sword specifically does not do extra damage to Ganon. So that just counted as 2 hits there.
Yeah, because if they actually stack damage with gold sword spins, the damage output would be like swinging the Great Fairy Sword of Majora's Mask. It would be ridiculously broken. Good pause buffer there to make sure that he got the torch glitch.
Yep, and plunked a couple arrows into Ganon. There's a third. He'll light the torch, which will freeze the warp and let him get a fourth in right here. So now all he's got to do is cross that bridge, and it's over.
Yep, get your GGs in chat for Death King 2. We will face a Game 3, as we heard from Fred earlier, tomorrow, same bat time. We don't know if it'll be same bat channel, though. And with that, Death King is across the finish line with an official time of 1 hour, 44 minutes, 6 seconds. And with that, we are joined by Death King 2. GG's on the seed.
Oh, GG's.
That turned out to be really close at the end because you were both defeating your 6th boss pretty much at the same time. Fred was defeating Cold Stare at the time you were taking down Helmasaur King. So you were literally a couple of seconds apart exiting your 6th dungeon. Basically what happened is he made the turn for Misery Mire first, and that's where so happened the Ice Rod was on this particular seed.
Yeah. Also, I was too stupid to save my portal, so I had to go back through the whole Turtle Rock. Oh, damn it.
Yeah, it happens. Portal preservation was pretty much the big reason Fred chose Meyer after his own Turtle Rock journey, because he did things like the super bomb up through Zora and Catfish before going up to Turtle Rock. So if it was in there, that would have unfortunately been your race. Just didn't turn out that way today, and he made the option that turned out to be correct, even though it was the lower percent play. Such is life sometimes, unfortunately.
Yes. I just hope to never enter a penitent dungeon.
Yeah, I play with that hope myself, and I'll be honest, I did not know about portal preservation being a thing until this race, so I definitely learned something on this one.
I knew about it, but the problem was I had it wrong in my mind. I thought it was 7 quid, not using death. So
good news is,
well,
I strongly doubt you'll make that mistake in the future, at least. So it'll help you with future runs.
Definitely not.
Yeah, a run like this that just degenerates into an Ice Rod hunt. Hard to feel bad about losing it because it just means that your opponent got lucky before you did. And if you can take a lesson out of it that's not related to Ice Rod hunts suck, then that's about the best you can hope for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the rest was okay. So the only thing was the portal save and to find the Ice Rod earlier next time.
Well, that's the way it goes with randos sometimes. Now, before we get too far, before I forget, Fred mentioned that you guys have scheduled your 3rd race for tomorrow at the same time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So the question I have for you is this. Have you thought about what setting you're going to choose for Game 3, as the choice is yours to make?
Well, maybe I go for a 6-6. Just to not search the Go Mode item again. But I'm not sure about this right now.
Hey, give it some thought, and we'll know tomorrow.
Yep, you do have almost a full day to make that decision, so...
Yeah, I will think about it. Yeah.
Well, I don't have much more to say about that. It was good race. Just Ice Rod didn't break your way, which will happen. Hopefully it won't happen the next time.
Yeah, I hope that too. And also, thank you too for commentating our race. Also, the tracker, and of course the chat for viewing our match. So yeah.
This was a fun one to call, that's for sure. And with that, if you haven't done so already, give our runners a follow. They put on a heck of a show, and will be having their Game 3 race tomorrow at the same time. And also, don't forget our tracker, Osgeek, as well as my co-com, Regaro. Also give them a follow too. And me as well if you feel so inclined, because I also do a few randomizer things, and I mix it up every so often.
Yep, and then on top of that, make sure you follow the main Speed Gaming channel at twitch.tv/speedgaming, as well as Speed Gaming 236 and ALTTP Randomizer, ALTP Randomizer 235. And going over the schedule for today, we've got more Randomizer coming at you this afternoon and evening. In 1 hour at 5:20 p.m. Eastern on Speed Gaming 2, we've got Matt 7898 versus Azus. At 6:20 p.m. Eastern, about 2 hours from now, we've got Matt the Ogre versus the Sabine. That'll be on Speed Gaming 3. At 8:20 p.m. Eastern, which is about,
4 hours.
4 hours from now, yeah. We've got Phyleon versus Apathy Duck on ALTTP Randomizer. And 10 minutes after that, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we've got DVO XS versus Supernin Taylor on Speed Gaming 3. And more matches may be added to the schedule throughout the evening, so keep an eye on that and check out anything that interests you.
There's also a late night 11:20 match on Speed Gaming 2. And amongst other games being featured today include Super Metroid Rando League, as well as Chrysalis Randomizer. And on this channel, in about 40 minutes from now, another match in the Super Mario Bros. Any Percent 2019 tournament. That one is going to go by laser quick, because it is one of those runs where don't blink, you'll miss it.
And on that note, as we see Death King's credits finish scrolling here, I've been Reg tonight. My partner on the mic has been Leslie, and our tracker was OSS Geek. The runners were fcoughlin and Death King 2. And that's going to be it for us. Have a great one, everybody.
Yep, have a good night, take care, and watch the schedule for Game 3. If this race was any indication, that Game 3 is going to be something you're going to want to watch for sure. See you next time, folks. Take care.